Hi, this is Stratis Morfogen. So excited to be on Hollywood Raw podcast. We're going to be talking about everything. We're going to be talking about a celebrity that dropped $700,000 on a credit card in my restaurant, to fun stories in the private dining room, to how we dealt with the mob. I'm really excited to be on the show, and thank you.
Hey guys, welcome to the Hollywood Raw YouTube page. Make sure you drop a comment, like, subscribe,
do all the fun things.
Follow
everything. We're here to entertain you guys.
What are you waiting for? Hurry up, let's go.
Enjoy. Stratis, thank you so much for joining us. Excited to talk to you. Excited to talk to someone who is, look, we're all about celebrity here, entertainment news, and I feel like I have reported on some of the restaurants that you've been involved with so many times in my career. I mean, Philippe Chow, just in general, it's been one of the biggest celebrity hotspots of all time, along with Julon. So I want to just jump right into it. You got a new book out. You refer to New York restaurants as having kind of like a mob influence. Can you explain what that exactly means?
Yeah, so I have a 35-year career. I had a bunch of restaurants, but yeah, I made my biggest mark with Philippe Chow in 2005 when I created it. And but basically, if you go back a little further, like 93, I had Gotham Diner, and 94, I owned Rouge Nightclub, and that's where the problem started with the mob. I mean, we, as restaurateurs, we've always had to deal with something. That's why the book says from mob to mandates. I mean, I don't know which one was worse. And at the end of the day, pre-Giuliani is like how we call it in the hospitality industry, because he really did clean it up. And what happened back then was, you had to choose on what side of the fence you wanted to be on. Either they were going to be your partners or they were going to be your enemies. And I had like a hybrid of both. I told guys like John Gotti Jr. to go fuck themselves, and that's something that just came natural to me. But I did have the most powerful guys of the Genovese family in my back pocket. So as much as I want to say that I have balls, I did have people that were protecting me, and they were true.
You had a lot of balls also behind you protecting you, is what you're trying to say.
Exactly. And I got to tell you, it's not like these mob movies that you read. My experience was these guys were my true friends. They started off as customers, and then we became friends. And then when they saw that I was being shaken down by the thugs like Gotti Jr. and his thugs, they were beating up my managers. They wanted a piece of my alcohol business. And this is like 93 and 94. And then it came to a point where, I was part of this big sit down between the Gambinos and the Genoveses. And I'm just a kid from Garden City. And at the end of the day, I did have the most powerful guys behind me. And for many years, people would say, Stratis mobbed up, Stratis this. And the truth is, yes and no. I was first friends, then they protected me, and then we went into business together with Rouge Nightclub. And I don't regret any of it. These are like the best guys you could have as partners, as protection, and as loyal friends. And that's what the FBI never could understand when they used to try to put me in front of a grand jury or harass me and knock on my door at 5 a.m. and show me pictures of me with Barney Bellomo and Ralph Coppola and all these guys. I'm like, yeah, they're my friends. But the truth is, they were my business partners, and that happened through an attorney. Their attorney, Patty Stissa, was legitimately my partner, and I knew where the money was probably coming from. But hey, as long as he wrote a check, and we opened up a business together, at the end of the day, I had this in my back pocket. And it wasn't just the Gotti Jr. crew. I was, because I kept it so quiet. I had, a Jewish gangster from LA that tried to shake me down. I had a bunch of other fly-by-night thugs trying to shake me down. As soon as they found out who I was around, well, they got their answer one way or the other. And, and all of this got cleaned up, I'd say, in the late 90s.
So does any of that still exist today? There's none of that mob kind of connection to any of the restaurants?
No, not like it was in the late 80s and 90s. It was a Wild West. I mean, this faction of John Gotti Jr. and his cohorts, the thugs that they are, they used to control the whole east side of Manhattan. If you had a business that was doing serious alcohol business, well, they wanted their money. They wanted and everybody was paying them. And I just refused to pay them. So at first they started throwing black paint on my windows just to make me, succumb to giving them their $5,000 or $10,000 a month. And then it had to come a point where I needed to get that thing out of my back pocket. And I went to my friends and I said, this is the problem I'm having. And believe me, one sit down dinner, it wasn't even a dinner, it was just like a drinks at Ferrier Bistro on 65th and Madison between the top guys of the Gambinos and my guys of Genovese. The thing was squashed in 30 minutes. And you know what? The FBI and NYPD were just not around to help small business owners like us. This had to be handled on the street. And unfortunately, I've been around these people all my life because we were very big in the Fulton Fish Market. You know, in my book, I show my first lesson of discretion in a restaurant was Carlo Gambino, and I was 6 years old. You know, I went up to his table where he was with like 7 of his capos, and I walked in at 6 years old with, you know, chubby little busboy with my water pitcher, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Gambino, how you doing?" And he's like, "What? How does a 6-year-old know my name?" You know, the whole table just really went from silent to laughing out loud. And he goes, "Come here, kid. How's school?" And I said, "School's good." And he goes, "Here's $20." He puts it in my pocket, and he goes, "High is good enough." And you know, that was like my first lesson in discretion. And I got to tell you, that was a great lesson because in 2009, I'm watching John Paulson have a private dinner at the basement of Philippe Chow where he's doing a hostile takeover of Bank of America the next day. And I'm looking at the PowerPoint, you know, and discretion is part of our industry. You know, if you do it right, you'll have a really good business.
Yeah, and you know, you say that because you obviously have had so many celeb clientele through all your different restaurant adventures. You know, who was the first celeb to walk into one of your restaurants way back in the day?
So a little background. I grew up in Garden City. The only celebrity I knew in 1992 and 93 was Susan Lucci. She was like my next door neighbor. You know, so I really didn't know celebrities. So fast forward in 94, and I had Mark Ronson DJing before he was known. I had David Blaine for $100 a night doing magic tricks. So, you know, it was pretty cool. Like almost became Forrest Gumpish that I had these like future like superstars, you know, for $100 a night. But I got to tell you, the big thing that happened to me was the night of Rouge opening was a dinner party for David Koch. And David Koch, the energy conglomerate, you know, he had Kissinger, Murdoch's, everybody was in there. It was all black tie. And that was the pre-opening to my nightclub. So on my walkie-talkie, there was Nextel, but, you know, this is pre-internet. You know, come to the front. You got to make this call. And I walk there and I see a black guy with gold chains and I see a blonde girl with a Yankee hat. And I look at them. I'm like, fuck no. They're not coming in. And what happened was the next day in the New York Post, it was on page 6, but it was literally page 2. And I had a picture of me going like this. And it says, "New kid on the block rejects Tupac and Madonna."
Oh,
and I want to think that I want to try to be cool, but I'm not. And at the end of the day, it was all by accident and mistake. I didn't recognize them because if I did, I would have brought them to the VIP room where I was holding court, and it would have been great to hang out with them. But I didn't recognize them.
God.
You know, I didn't recognize them, and I became all of a sudden this mysterious guy, which I'm not. And you know, who is this guy that rejects the hottest couple of the moment? So fast forward a few weeks later, Nile Rodgers calls me and he says, "Yo, Madonna wants to come back. Are we cool?" So I had to put it on hold because I had my office with like 5 people around me. And I'm like, I fucked up so bad. I didn't understand what press was. This was a really big thing. It was actually worked out for my club because not letting them in was like a huge thing. And it blew up my club. But here I am like hyperventilating. It's like, oh man. So I'm like, okay, put the phone up. Nile, as long as she dresses right, we're cool. You know, deep breath, you know. And then she comes back with Sam Cassell. So Sam Cassell now is on the Houston Rockets and he's playing the New York Knicks that week. And they're having like a weekend rendezvous apparently because the next thing I do, my Nextel's going off a day later. And on Entertainment Tonight, Sam Cassell's wife is throwing all his clothes out the second-story window of their Houston suburban home because the press came out that Sam had a rendezvous with Madonna that weekend. And it was at Club Rouge. So I was like, I became like the accidental public, you know, PR guy. You know, this was all by accident.
That
And
is so funny.
And then from there on, like I talk about my book, Be a Disruptor, you know, everybody from Jack Nicholson, Liza Minnelli, Oliver Stone, and I had to stop Oliver Stone from Charlie Sheen from having a fight, something about Platoon. They left off on bad terms. You know, I had to pull Charlie Sheen out. He came with a dentist, and the joke was just to keep his jaws from not grinding. Because, you know, it was just a lot of cocaine, There's a famous party at my apartment after hours where they wrote the word Van Halen and cocaine, and each letter was like a foot long. And I went to sleep on the first N, and I woke up 7 hours later on the second N, with Van Halen, and that was like Jack Nicholson, Liza Minnelli, Slash, and all of a sudden, I became like, an accidental celebrity kind of magnet. But I'm also very careful with my celebs. Like, when I opened up Philippe Chow, I just gotten married, and I'm in Mykonos for my honeymoon, and I get a call from the Inquirer. They said, we're offering you $1 million for the tape of this. I still will never mention his name, but you might figure it out. This hip hop magnet having sex on the table with a Hollywood starlet. And we know you have the video. And I said, only video I could have was from the security cameras. So I'm in Greece, and I call my GM and I said, go on the security cameras. And he's like, oh yeah, they were having dinner last night in the private room. I said, go back and tell me what you see. And he's like, Eddie has like a real heavy accent. He's like, Mr. Morfogen, I can't even look at this. They're having sex on the table. I said, Eddie, do me a favor, totally delete it and wipe it off the server. Because you know what? For $1 million, I'm not doing it. And at the end of the day, they offered me $1 million for that tape. And it was like hip hop and Hollywood royalty. And that's where I draw the line. As much as I enjoy the celebrity press and all that, I'm very protective. And I don't know how many restaurateurs would have shut down $1 million in 2007.
Well,
Yeah.
it's probably would have stopped all celebrities coming to any of your restaurants moving forward.
And they're still my customers today because they know what I did.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Dax, hip hop royalty in Hollywood.
Starlet.
Oh, I am going through my bank in my head.
So what happened there when I opened Philippe Chow? What really put Philippe Chow on the map was Jay-Z. I mean, Jay was there with Bob Johnson, Kobe Bryant, and Magic Johnson the first week I opened. And I heard him singing to like the Grateful Dead, because the music that I played is pretty cool. It's like Grateful Dead to Pink Floyd to the Bee Gees. There's no rhyme or reason, just cool music of all genres. And there's like hip hop legend, Jay-Z singing Ripple by the Grateful Dead. And I'm like, that is so fucking cool that, he understands the Dead, because I'm a Deadhead.
Yeah.
And he said to me, well, I'm going to do something really cool for you. I love this place. And what happened was 6 months later, he came out with the song, When the Money's Gone, I Can Die Now. I have a reservation at Philippe. And then the whole restaurant just exploded, because cool. I have my wife on one side, who's number 4 at Vogue magazine. So I've got the whole Met Ball, coming as the after party. And now I've got hip hop royalty. And now I'm in rap songs. And now, from there, it went from, she's thinking Philippe, I'm thinking Wingstop, Pop Cristal, Felipe Chow. They added Felipe. I don't know where they got that from, but it became like a cultural phenomenon. And I was truly appreciative. And then when I sold Philippe in 2014, I teamed up with more music royalty with Don Pooh Cummings. And I took, I used to say Philippe is kindergarten, Brooklyn Chop House is Columbia grad. I mixed like steakhouse with that great Chinese food. And we call it LSD, lobster, steak, and duck.
Well, so we're going to get into all this. I want to get into this. I want to slow it down a little bit. So Philippe, when you opened Philippe, how did you? So you're saying Jay-Z came the first week. How did you get those guys to come in the door the first week?
Well, the rumor was out that the chef of Mr. Chow left, and if you ever went to a Mr. Chow, the service was really nasty. The lights were super bright. There was no music. So right off the bat, we started getting a lot of press that the chef of Mr. Chow left and opened up Philippe Chow with me. And, music and sports is what really kept Mr. Chow open. And, they just flocked to us, and they just saw a cooler experience. And, I think we were in 30 hip hop tracks, and it just didn't stop there. My wife was pretty powerful in fashion as senior accessories director at Vogue. So, we had the after party for the Met Ball for like 5 years in a row. We had Karl Lagerfeld as a host. Every time Anna did a party, it was like who's who. It was David Bowie, Mick Jagger, Bono, you name it. A little 15-year-old girl that was my friend for the night named Taylor. And I said, what do you do, Taylor? She's like, oh, I'm an artist. I said, do you have an album out or anything? She's like, no, but my album comes out in a few months. And I'm like, well, good luck with that. It's Taylor Swift.
Do you ever get nervous around any celebs at this point? Is there anyone that could walk through your door that you would actually be impressed with?
I don't. I really don't. I'm. I don't. It doesn't come from like like an ego area. I mean, I fed every president. I can call them. I even called President Gore, and he starts laughing. And I said, "You were president one day more than I was." So it's I really don't. And I guess that's what maybe draws them to me, is because I just I always make sure they get a great table. But I do that for a lot of people.
So when you get these celebrities, I mean, how does it work with you? Are they expecting free meals and handouts, or
It'll never happen. So I mean, the only celebrities that think they should get some kind of privilege are the housekeepers of New York, the housekeepers of Beverly Hills. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Did I say housekeepers? Housewives of Beverly Hills and New York. Those are the ones that think that they're owed something, and I basically make it very clear. They're paying for everything. I don't do that. And you know what? The coolest thing I've got in my scrapbook is I take their credit card receipt with their order, and they sign their credit card, and I use that as my scrapbook to give to my great grandkids one day, that they could have presidents, Roger Waters, Mick Jagger, Oprah Winfrey, all the big ones. You see the last 4 digits of their credit card. You know what they ate, and they signed it. I think that's cool. I think that's the coolest thing. I would have loved to see what Kennedy ate at a dinner.
that is
Okay, what is the biggest receipt you have in that book of yours, of the autograph book?
On celebrity power?
No, I want to know the biggest, like the money amount, the biggest amount on one of those bills.
You're ready for this?
Yeah.
Michael Bloomberg, $700,000.
Oh my God. $700,000 for one meal? What?
What
kind
it
of
was
booze?
that he had me cater his employee appreciation party, and he paid it with a credit card, and it was 770 grand.
Oh my God.
He has it at Randall's Island, and he loved my food so much,
Yeah.
he wanted me to cater it. And I was one of like 5 caterers for like 10,000 people. These were all his employees. I did that for 5 years in a row. And with that, I have a handwritten letter that he would write me how great everything was. And that's with the receipt.
So Bloomberg for his network throws a really big party
For
for his
$12
employees.
million budget, and he does it at the end of July every year.
Yeah, they're like known for like this like employee appreciation day, and I
Insane.
guess that's
Insane.
incredible.
We did lobster and crab legs with 120 employees on a grill, and it was a tractor trailer full of lobster and crab legs. And when the bill came, he just came to the restaurant to have dinner, and he goes, "Oh, give me the bill," and I'm like, and he just put it on his credit card.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Do you get nervous though when you have some of these celebrities in the restaurant because you want them to have a good experience? It's built up. They're coming to, at the time, Philippe Chow. Everyone's going there, and you want to make sure.
Not anymore. They're all coming to Brooklyn Chop House.
Well, they are going, and I will say that because I actually did a shot there not too long ago with Wendy Williams.
Yeah. Wendy's been one of our biggest supporters. But the grand opening was so special at the Times Square location. Fat Joe and Mary J got up and did like an 8-song concert.
Yeah. No, I saw that, and here's the thing about Philippe though, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but I was told, and again, I used to cover Philippe a lot because I was there. I started doing what I do as a video journalist, a guy on the streets running around with a camera in 2010. And I was there, I guess, during your time, and it was a popular spot because right next door was Serafina. So Serafina, A-Rod was always there. I remember that was the first time I saw Lady Gaga was at Serafina. So between Philippe and Serafina, I mean, it was just 2 great places. Was there a room at Philippe Chow, like the private room there? Were they allowed to smoke weed there?
Yeah. The private rooms is where that video that I was telling you about, those private rooms, if they had, well, I talk about it a lot in my book, but I with discretion, but that private room, boy, oh boy, the stories in that room, in the basement, I can just tell you some of the recipients, like Oscar De La Hoya, that was his weekly thing. It was pretty crazy down there. And then we'd have poker games on Monday night where it would be like, everybody from the Knicks to the LA Lakers, and they would all come down. They're like almost 7 feet, and they go into a 6'8" room, crouching down, and we'd have our poker games. So that room was pretty, boy, oh boy, you could write a few books out of that room.
Yeah. I remember Rick Ross talking about it was a cool spot because again, it was dark. The food was great. The ambiance was awesome. And then again, this is pre before it was legal that you're able to like go to a very nice restaurant and smoke weed while you eat, which was
Yeah.
just like, insane.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to tell you, now we do it legally at Brooklyn Chop House. I have a rooftop. So everybody goes up on the roof and they can smoke whatever they want. I mean, the truth is that, I mean, actually people frown on cigarettes more than they do weed. And especially with the pens, I'd rather, listen, weed to me is healthier than alcohol.
So with with running an establishment that so many celebrities are flocking to, how do you deal with fans at restaurants when they keep pulling out their phone, wanting to take pictures, but you want to keep this as a spot where celebs feel comfortable?
Yeah, so we always have different entrances. What's great about the Times Square Brooklyn Chop House, when you see the front door, there's a door to the left and a door to the right. If you go 2 flights down, it's a private room. If you go 2 flights up, you're on the rooftop. And they're all private dining rooms in between. So I've always designed my restaurants that way, where there's a doorway where they don't have to go through the general public.
Got it.
Interesting. Yeah. What are your thoughts about these? There's a lot of now that are popping up where it's more membership type spots. Like obviously it's like a Soho House, but now they have like the Zero Bond, which has become a big celebrity hotspot.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on this?
Scott's a friend of mine. He does a great job. But we're going to be the first NFT private supper club in Times Square. We have a private dining room 2 levels below ground, and it'll be for NFT members only. And basically, it's going to be the first NFT members only supper club. And we have the prices on those memberships are $8,000, $25,000, and $100,000. And each one of them gives you a level of service with a one-time fee. And then you can resell it on the blockchain if you want. So now all of a sudden you have an asset. So if you go to the Soho houses of the world, you pay your $5,000 a year and it just, you write it off, I guess, because there's no value to it. With us is that you're going to pay a one-time fee. That membership, that digital token, you'll be able to sell it on the blockchain. And we just continue to get our 10% when you resell it. But that's the whole concept. Now everything's going to be for us, NFT private seller, members only. And that's going to be launched in September.
What would that starting cost be for someone to get in when it first sells?
It's $8,000, $25,000, and $100,000. There's 3 tokens. The 8,000. I'll give you a breakdown. The 8,000 is general admission. 25,000 allows you a certain amount of reservations a week. The 100,000 gives you a car service to and from the airport. It will cater your private plane. It'll give you a car service to and from the hotel. So all of a sudden, we're adding hospitality to NFT. And
but wait a second. You pay 100,000 once, and you get unlimited for
unlimited.
Wow, that actually.
As long as the restaurant is the nucleus, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we're very excited about it because all of a sudden now the customer has an asset. Let's say they do it for 2 years and like, I'm tired of this restaurant. They can go sell it. And that's pretty cool because you can't do that with other private clubs.
Yeah.
You spend 5, 6, 7,000 a year. It's really just go down the toilet.
Smart.
How do you how do you deal with the paparazzi or the press? Because I say this with Craig's in LA, obviously it's a celebrity hotspot. There's fans and paparazzi outside. Obviously promotion is good for you in a way, but what's your thoughts on like dealing with like journalists outside or, again,
the truth is New York, we don't have that problem. But when I opened Philippe in LA, it was a big problem. I mean, it was just loaded with paparazzi every time. But in New York, we don't have that problem. We're not calling them. It's funny. You talk about the reality stars. It's funny. They actually call on themselves. That's the funny part. That to me was like amazing. It was hilarious where they would actually call on themselves. Because I'd be outside and I'd see like a TMZ out there. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Oh, this momager just called us and, their daughters are inside having dinner. So we're here to take a picture of them. I'm like, what? That's insane.
Wow, I felt like there was some subtle coding there.
You sure was.
That is awesome. Well, I think everyone knows that is the name of the game when it comes to people need to stay in the headlines. So we talk about this all the time on the podcast. It's like, listen, people got a call. They got to stay in the headlines. The best way to do it, they tip off the paparazzi themselves. It is what it is. Who is the best tipper you have ever seen? Consistently, they come in and they're the ones you're like, leave a fatty tip and walk out.
Paul McCartney. I got to tell you, Paul McCartney to me is one of the most, he's on a level of his own. Like he'll actually walk. He's been to every one of my restaurants in every city and every country. And I got to tell you, he would go into the kitchen and thank the kitchen staff. He would tip everybody, big tipper, but he was I never saw anyone like him ever, and I still have it. Where he would literally go into the kitchen and thank, because we cooked vegan for him, vegetarian, and he was so appreciative. He's one of the, I got to tell you, he's like probably the nicest, and I'm happy to call him my friend, but he's one of the nicest people on earth. I mean, he never wants any kind of like fuss made over him, and I got to tell you, I don't think there's anyone close to him when it comes to that type of thing. Big tipper, and more importantly, he thanks all my staff.
Yeah.
I mean,
and one of the biggest stars on the entire planet. Like, there is no bigger rock royalty than Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable. That's cool. I love hearing that he does that, because I feel like you're a big star, but if you're going out of your way to make every single person feel good around you, like it makes you a dope person and a big star. I like that.
Yeah, and you know what's cool about it is I had these guys posters on my walls growing up, and then I'm backstage with my daughters at Roger Waters and Paul McCartney and Bieber and all that. You know, that Bieber wasn't on my wall, but you know, just being able to do these things for my children is just like, it's, you know, mind-boggling to me, because these guys like Roger Waters and McCartney are on my, you know, these are like my top artists of all time, and now they're like, you know, socializing with my kids backstage before a concert. I mean, those are things I'll take to my grave. Those are memories.
Where can we apply to be one of your children?
they still laugh about it today. Yeah, they still have that little chip on their shoulder. My daughter's Beatrice. Paul's daughter's Beatrice. So it's a lot of fun.
Have you seen any wild fights in the restaurant?
Oh, well, that's how, you know, in my book, it talks about where a party of four, the guy was drunk and he actually physically pushed a waiter. And I went to the table, and this is what I always do with like a customer I just don't like. So there's picture 4 people in a crowded dining with 200 people around them, and the place is full. So what I would do is I would pick up the table and leave them in their 4 chairs in the middle of a crowded dining room. And I wouldn't even give them warning. I'd pick up the table, and that's it. And they're sitting there with 4 chairs and no table. I mean, it's complete humiliation, which is my point. And I got to tell you, so one of the guys got up and got nose to nose with me. And then all of a sudden, this guy pushes me to the side and says, "You put a hand on him, you're going to put a hand on me too. It's us 2 against you." And it was Michael Cohen. You know, Michael became one of my close friends ever since then. But that's how you know, that's where, you know, when you own a restaurant, it's pretty cool, because I don't know what other industry I can call presidents and ex-presidents and rock and roll royalty and hip hop legend. And these are like my friends. And it's pretty cool, because I'm just a restaurant kid from Garden City. And it all started, like I said, I really never even knew what a celebrity was.
That's so cool.
How often did you see prostitutes in the restaurant?
Well, that's a hard question, because, you know, you never, they come in different looks all the time now, but I don't really, I don't pay attention, but, you know, she could be a 6-foot stunner and she could be an escort. Who the hell knows?
I see. So let me tell you the experience I had, Dax. So around the corner from Philippe Chow was another restaurant called Nello. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
you just hit the mecca of that.
No idea. Having lunch was the former owner of the Brooklyn Nets. There was this Russian billionaire, and he was there with about 12 people, and the restaurant was dead. Yeah. And the restaurant storefronts open, so you could see into the restaurant. And I'm watching this guy eat. There are bottles of champagne. I'm sitting there waiting because I want to interview the owner of the Nets, this guy who's a Brooklyn he's multi-billion.
Yeah.
But also in the restaurant, I could see was this blonde woman, very, you know, soft looking, like in the corner. She didn't it wasn't like a Pam Anderson type look. It was just very like subtle look. She just looked naturally cute. And another woman comes up to me as I'm waiting outside. She goes, "Excuse me, can you go get my friend?" I go, "What? Can you get my friend for me?" I'm like, "I don't work here. Like, go get her." She's like, "I can't. Can you just go get my friend?" So I'm like, "Okay." It got weird. So I walk in the restaurant. I put my camera in my bag, and I walk in the restaurant. I'm like, "Excuse me," and she gets startled. I go, "Your friend's outside waiting for you," and she's like, "I'll tell her I'm busy." I'm like, "What am I doing here?" I walk her on the street. I'm like,
you became a pimp.
That's exactly what happened. She's like, "Hey, she's busy." And I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" Next thing you know, the Russian billionaire gets off from his table. He walks out, and the whole big party walks out. The blonde girl runs to the guy and starts to talk to her and starts to like throw herself at him. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I just realized these are two hookers. Either like one's the pimp and the other, like this girl was definitely a hooker selling herself.
That's a common thing. It's actually encouraged in the nightlife business in New York, where you actually have, we call them model wranglers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're basically B-level escorts. And actually people get paid to bring these girls into nightclubs. Unfortunately, thank God, I was in the nightclub business 3 times, and thank God I don't deal with promoters anymore, because to me, they're the kiss of death of our industry.
Yeah. But, do you try to put like hot girl, like do you deal the promoter tables and put hot girls in the restaurant?
No, that's what's great about Brooklyn Chop House. We don't, like I said, promoters. You start putting promoters in your restaurants, it's usually the kiss of death. All they do is bleed you out and take what they want, and then they're gone and they're off to the next place. I will never allow promoters in my restaurant. Never happen. And there's a lot of stories of promoters, like club promoters, that became restaurateurs, and they had to learn the hard way. The guys at Catch, I'm very, very proud of. They owned a bunch of restaurants right after they switched from nightclub to restaurants, and they didn't work because it was all, you'd go in there and it was packed. But every table was like, out of a magazine, all beautiful girls. And none of those tables were paying. It was all promoter driven. And, and then those guys said, hey, this model doesn't work. And that's when they created Catch. And the food is great there. And they finally said, if you got great food, you got a cool vibe, you got great service, and you have really interesting and warm atmosphere, you'll make it without promoters. Promoters, anytime you tag a promoter to your restaurant, it just cheapens the brand.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. What I want to know, because obviously you've had so many important people dining at your restaurant, what is the biggest business deal that you've seen go down in your restaurant?
It was the buyout. It was the hostile takeover of a Bank of America. That was a multi-billion-dollar takeover. And like I said about discretion, when we first spoke in the beginning, I'm watching John Paulson, a hedge fund multi-billionaire.
Short of the market.
He's taking over Bank of America tomorrow morning. And if I was corrupt, I'd be buying and shorting and putting that stock left and right.
Wow. That's cool.
Not shorting. I wouldn't be shorting it.
No. He's a multi.
So I'm witnessing that going down in the private room. And this, I think, was like 2008 or 9.
But did you realize what it was at that time, or you only realized the next day?
100%, because I knew that they didn't want waiters in there. They preset the menu, and they didn't want any staff in there. But I had to go down and just say hi to him because I know him. And I look up on the PowerPoint, and it says takeover of Bank of America. I'm like, whoa, maybe I should get out of here.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wild. Oscar De La Hoya, you mentioned in your book, and you don't mention too many others, but like you mentioned Oscar De La Hoya. He was a party guy. What was like his dinners like? Like, what was the crowd like? And
oh my God, I mean, it would be 20 girls, it'd be him and a few of his friends, and I mean, again, discretion. All I could say, it was a lot of fun because I actually partook in a few of them.
I don't blame you. No, that's. Is there one celebrity?
I will tell you, I had a sleepless night when all this shit was getting announced. A few years ago, they had pictures of him and whatever. I lost sleep that night because I thought it was going to be all about Philippe Chow that night. And thank God we were never mentioned. And I kept it that way.
You're like, I know some things that went down there, but I'm keeping my mouth closed.
Yeah. But you know what? A lot of people, they had fun down there. And again, I'm guilty too. I mean, I had a lot of fun down there too.
It's funny, like New York, I'm on the East Coast. I'm a New York guy. Dax on the West Coast. But it's like, I don't see, there's not really nightlife. Now, the celebrities still do go to the restaurants, but as far as like nightclubs and stuff, celebrities really don't go. People in that crowd, they don't really go out. They don't do any of that stuff as much anymore. Back in the day, during the provocateur days and before that, you had the Leo and that crew running around. Did you ever have, during your experiences, besides Madonna and the Tupac, did you ever say, like, stop someone saying, hey, I don't want that person coming back? Was there any celebrities that you said, basically, please don't come back?
Yeah, it was Bernard Hopkins. I actually almost had a fist fight with him, and I didn't know that he was a boxer. And it took Dwight Howard, the owner of the Nets, which was Rabin, and it was out in East Hampton, Philippe. They told me that, they ordered about 300 chicken sautés, and they said they didn't order that many. And they said I fluffed the bill. I said, that's totally impossible because everything goes through a POS system. And I said to Rabin, I think his name was Jason Rabin, total scumbag. And I said, are you questioning my integrity and honesty? And you think I'm fluffing a bill? And he got in my face, and I got right back in his face. And then Bernard Hopkins gets in the middle and says, You touch him, you're going to deal with me. And I'm like, fuck you. I don't give a fuck who you are. I mean, my friend, and my manager's like, Stratis, it's Bernard Hopkins. Back the fuck up. And I'm like, I don't care who he is. I'm like, oh, wait, who is he? Yeah. So, after that, Jason Rabin and Bernard Hopkins were not welcome in my places after that.
Wow.
And then Cuomo and de Blasio, of course, they're not allowed in my restaurants.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
I call him Comrade Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio.
Yeah. Did you ever have? See, here's my thing. Who's the biggest mooch of Manhattan? I feel like the biggest, not Anthony Scaramucci, but the biggest mooch, the guy who's just trying to get away with as much as possible, is Busta Rhymes. I always thought he would be the guy trying to see whatever he could get. And
no, I love Buster. We have a great relationship. It started when I owned Sessa nightclub in '99, and his song just came out, "Pass the Cavassier." And the funny part is that he did ask for. He had 2 shots of Cavassier, and then the bartender said, he gave him a bill, and he was just like looking at it like, are you serious? And I said, whoa, where did they say pass the Cavassier for free? I said, I didn't hear that in your song. There's your check. But ever since that, we've been friends ever since. And I saw him like 2 weeks ago. He's actually a great guy.
Well, so I want to know, with getting in this industry, because the restaurant business is very difficult. I think that it's well known that it's difficult. You obviously don't make it look difficult because you've had so much success. But is there truth to be said with having like a hit restaurant? There's a short shelf life, 5-6 years before you have to flip it and turn it something else.
That's nightclubs, not restaurants. You can go 30, 40, 100 years. No, see, that's why I hate nightclubs, because that's a nightclub rule. You get 5 or 6 years out of a nightclub, it's a big success. Restaurants can go forever as long as you got food, service, and atmosphere have to go hand in hand. If you lose one of those, you will fail. And it doesn't matter what year you're in.
Interesting. And with Brooklyn Chop House, are you getting just as many celebs into Brooklyn Chop House as you were getting into Philippe Chow?
Oh, everybody it was an exodus. Everybody left Philippe. They're all at Chop House. They follow me because I'm the founder of Philippe Chow, and I took the chef from there. People think Philippe Chow was the chef. He was like Colonel Sanders. The real chef is Skinny Mai, and Chef Mai is with me now, and he's my chef at Brooklyn Chop House, and he was the best chef that Mr. Chow or Philippe Chow ever had.
Interesting.
And then what happened with you and Julan? You were there for a little bit? Like you opened that place?
Julan, so what I did was I had a non-compete after Philippe Chow because I broke up with my corrupt partners. And basically, they asked me to basically come in with Julan as a consultant with 3 others. And I'm not good with 3 or 4 partners. I'm pretty stubborn. Actually, they call stubborn now disruption. So that, so I basically created Julan with Bob Collins and Richard Romero. And then I just wasn't happy there because I was 1 of 4. And basically, I like being in control of the whole experience and the whole concept. So I did it because I had really nothing else, because that was my low time. And I describe it in my book. It was a really bad time for me, 2013, 14, and 15. And then when I created Julan, it wasn't a passion play. It was just money. And with that, I sold that in 17 because, again, the partners were corrupt. And I found the best partners I ever found. It happened to be my customers at Philippe Chow was Don Fu Cummings, Robert Cummings, and Dave Thomas. We partnered up, and I got to tell you, I wish I found them 35 years ago. Because when you got a good nucleus of partners and everybody knows their lane, it's so easy to be successful when everybody knows their part and there's mutual love and respect. And listen, you got to make a lot of money, because if you don't make money, believe me, fights will start. But, when you're making money with people that you really love and respect, got to tell you, there's no better feeling and there's no better business.
So what does it take to get on the rooftop of your of Brooklyn Chop House to be cool enough to be to the rooftop?
I mean, so right now I'm at a cigar spot, and there's probably 200 people out there, and I know most of them. And it's a place where you could have dinner and you can go up there and smoke, and that's really cool, especially for cigar smokers. And it's cool. And I got to tell you, it's usually mostly big VIPs and celebs. They'll say, hey, can we go up? Can we smoke anywhere? Yeah. Finish dinner or have dessert on the roof. And you guys are on the roof. You can do whatever you want.
But how big of a celeb do you have to be? If we walked in, we were like, Stratis, what's up? You're going to be like, no.
No. You know what it is? There's 80 seats up there. So it's really about supply and demand. Not that I'm belittling you, Dax. I swear I'm not. But I'm sure if we're friends, there'll be a table for you up on the roof. Because I got to tell you, that's part of the lure. I don't really treat celebrities any different than I treat, people that have been loyal to me. It's all about loyalty to me. Everybody, all my big spenders and all the celebs left Philippe Chow. They all came to Brooklyn Chop House, and I got to tell you, they've been following me ever since. And to me, that's better than money.
Well, Adam, you keep this tape, all right? We're gonna go to the Brooklyn Chop House, and we're gonna be like, "See, guys, Stratis said so. He
Anytime.
said we're cool."
Anytime.
Tell us about your new book, Be a Disruptor: Streetwise Lessons for Entrepreneurs from Mob to Mandates. What do you want people to walk away from about this?
So you know what? For the last 10, 15 years, people are like, you should write a book. I know about those mob things and all that. You should really just set the record straight. So I set the record straight. Everything is so truthful, and I even talk about my flaws and what I've done and whatever. But one thing about me, I'm a documentary freak. I love to read books about business because I have severe ADHD. So if I'm not interested in that topic, I'm not reading it. I'm not watching it. And I got to tell you, every business book I read, it's all supported with analytics. And it's starting to get boring because the same analytics are being repeated. Be a Disruptor is about my journey as a New York City entrepreneur, restaurateur from 18 to 54 and all the challenges that came with it. But it's not supported by analytics. It's supported by real stories, like stories that you could actually relate to. And the book is great, from college students to, senior entrepreneurs of 30 years. Everybody's getting a really good, the response has been amazing. The reviews are incredible. I got 2 major networks now talking about the book rights. It's just a really unique experience of how a Greek kid from nowhere all of a sudden is involved in the heart of the most powerful city and dealing with all these different things. And again, it talks about success and failure, but more importantly, it's supported by real stories on both. And that's something that makes Be a Disruptor very unique.
That's awesome. And by the way, you can find it on Amazon if you are going out and looking for it, people, because it, definitely has caught my attention in regards to just seeing how successful you've been and what someone could learn from your book.
Yeah, there's not too many books where it's it starts off with telling John Gotti Jr. to go fuck himself, and all this is true, and that's what makes Be a Disruptor very unique. And obviously now you can see why people are interested in the TV rights to it, because it really takes you through an interesting journey that's never been told before on the mob perspective, as a business perspective, and just maneuvering through the wild west of New York City pre-Giuliani to today's times. And at the end of it, I kind of say I was partners with the mob, I was partners with the NBA Wharton types, and I've dealt with politicians the last 2.5 years where I've debated them on every network television on how fucked up they are and how they never run a lemonade stand and they're making small business decisions and they never followed the science. But that's another conversation. And I said at the end of the book, basically, I said the moral of this book is basically, if I had to choose a partner out of all 3 of them, I'd be partners with the mob. And that's the 54-year-old. Yeah, I'd be partners with the mob. If I had to pick the NBA Wharton types, the politicians, and the mob, I would be partners with the mob, because you know what? They were loyal, they were genuine, and you knew what you were getting. Politicians to me are all corrupt, and these NBA Wharton types, they'll cut your throat for $1. And I got to tell you, I never had that experience with the mob. And if you put that in that perspective, you say, wow. That's because no one's ever portrayed the mob in this light. My experience was pretty bad with the Gotti Juniors of the world, but not with the Ralph Coppolas and the Barney Belomos of the Genoveses. They were just true gentlemen and true friends, and they were loyal and protective of me. And they never asked for anything in return. And that story's never been told.
All right. Well, before we go, Adam, I need you to guess. Who do you think was the what was it? Hip hop royalty and the starlet having sex in the basement of Philippe Chow?
You guys can make a guess. I'm going to go like this while you guess.
What year what year was it again?
2007.
Okay. Adam, what's your guess?
Oh man. Hip hop superstar.
Look at him.
Man, this is oh man. Dax. I mean, I just got to go with Jay. I mean, I don't know.
Jay-Z and who?
Well, no, was he with Beyonce at that time? No.
But
Is that too easy?
I don't know. I'm going P. Diddy and Cameron Diaz. Oh, we got a laugh. I like the laugh.
Okay.
But I feel like Jay-Z, that's almost too easy. It wouldn't be, I don't think it'd be Beyonce.
But let's think
unless you had blonde hair.
Who was some who was some hip hop people who made the trend, the
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out. I mean, 2007 though? Like, who else did Jay-Z date back in the day?
No, it can't be Jay-Z. Then it wouldn't be, the only person would be Beyonce. But P. Diddy was a good P. Diddy and J-Lo.
Oh. Oh.
You never thought you'd have me silent, but I'll tell you that's not it.
Okay.
All right.
That's as far as I'm going.
But I also think, like, when I think Hollywood, I think of actress, not musician. That's why I'm not leaning toward.
We're talking like almost Oscar-winning actress.
That's why I'm not thinking Beyonce or J-Lo, because they're all music.
No, it wasn't a musician. It was an actress.
Oh God, this is good. This is a fun game. I like this game.
Nick Lachey had some few rhymes with Vanessa. No, I'm kidding. So no, that's great. Listen, I'm excited. This book it's a must read. It's called Be a Disruptor: Streetwise Lessons for Entrepreneurs from the Mobs to Mandates. It's go to Amazon, check out Stratis. Thank you so much. Check out
and the audio book was just released as well on audiobooks.com.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, that was Philippe Chow. Here's my outro. Ready? Here we go.
Yep.
Philippe Chow is a very, very successful spot. I remember, like, when I first started doing the job, every single night, that's where you knew every night, like, that was our Craig's in New York. You could stand up there and you knew someone was going to come out, from athlete to rapper, musician. Like, it was guaranteed, or it was just going to be, or at least if they weren't there, it was always going to be interesting people coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of money.
Absolutely. No, 100%. And you know what? This was one of the first people that we've had that are like, they have celebrities every night showing up and that they're interacting with, that I feel like he didn't hide away from a lot of the questions. You know what I'm saying? No. Like, a lot of people will ask, okay, well, who's never allowed back in your restaurant? And they'll be like, oh, I don't like talking about that. I like that he gave names. Like, yeah, I think because he is so successful and he is so powerful that he doesn't care. He's like, oh, I can give a name because I don't need these people and I don't need their business in my restaurant anymore.
Exactly. The food, the restaurant, the vibe speaks for itself. And that's why the people continue to come back. They don't come, they do come back for him, but they also come back for the great experiences which he gives. He knows the vibe. He's been doing it for a long time, so he knows what he's doing. But with that, people, make sure you check out our podcast. We are on YouTube, the Hollywood Raw Podcast. We're also on Instagram. Follow us at Hollywood Raw Pod, P-O-D. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We also have this private Facebook group where we give all the dirt that we can't give on the podcast because we'll get sued, but we'll answer all your questions. Interact with us. What's that private Facebook group called, Dax?
It's called Off the Record.
It's very cool. Off the Record. Follow us on Facebook. Follow me at Adam Glyn. Follow Dax Holt at Dax Holt. We'll see you guys next time. What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on. Let's go.